Hello and welcome to the first official episode of Everything They Don't Want You to Know. The last episode was an introduction. I was a little all over the place. I was so uncomfortable talking about myself. And last week I was experimenting with live streaming all of my shows, all of my podcasts. And this was the first show that I decided I'm not going to live stream that, Everything that I do on in podcasts, they're very informational. It's about the info, and I really do think that there's something that gets in the way of when people's faces are there and shit. So the only show that I really wanted to do as a live stream was the show with Aaron, the Coolest Geeks Alive stream, which we're doing every Sunday night now. So I'm excited about that. I'm going to keep doing that, but everything is going to regular podcasts. If you're somebody who's listened to my regular show, Coolest Geek Alive, every Wednesday, I'm also bringing back the Saturday show. I just did one for tomorrow. And then so the Coolest Geeks Alive stream will just be additional on YouTube, and that's the one place you can go if you want to talk with me, comment with me. But you can always email me, Jesse Blaze, jessesnider.com. And then, of course, I do a music show, All Your Favorite Bands Suck, every Monday night. And that I'm just doing as a podcast as well. I was like, I hate it being me, and I'm sitting there playing music for people, and it's me on camera. It's kind of sitting around. This is no fun. So I'm going to do the live stream with Aaron on Sunday nights, and I'm going to do the rest of these shows as podcasts because I love podcasting. And I had envisioned this show as a podcast, a more intimate sort of thing, and that's what I want it to be. So the introduction, though, is still live on YouTube if you ever want to go see me bouncing around talking about my spiritual life. But I may talk about my spiritual life here or there, but I mean that was really the bulk of just kind of introducing myself, and I think I covered plenty of stuff. So this time, and for the rest of the times, it's really going to be about the information that I'm here to give you. And before we get to today's topic, I just want to do what I wanted to do last time, but I just was too frantic about having to tell my own story on camera and all that. I want to talk about I want to take some breaths. Not a lot, Maybe we'll do 26 breaths. Sounds kind of good. Just chill with me for a second. Because I really want you to be open to this information. And I, as a intuitive channel, I want to be open to receiving the information the right way so that I can pass it on to you the right way. And I don't want to be frantic while I'm doing this podcast. And, this is high-level information, the infinity, the balance, the center of all things. And centering yourself and learning how to meditate and things like Qigong and how to work with your energy body to get yourself into the right state is very important. So if you don't mind real quick, we're going to do 26 slow breaths, okay? I realize I don't need 26. I just need one for me. And one's kind of good for you guys too. So I was just I don't know. I feel calm now. So today what I am here to teach you is actually something that I'm not so certain is being taught in the Freemasons and everything, because the moment it's really known and understood deeply, and we're going to talk about it deeply today, you just have to change your life completely. And that is the law of one. The law of one, which is a law in the fucking first law in so many cultures all around the world. Kabbalah is maybe perhaps the most famous. But the law of one states that all is one. And I can explain this to you in a number of ways. The second way will be, just how everything is connected, though it seems desperate, apart from each other. And then the first way is how it is all the same, coming from the same place. So I'm going to end up repeating concepts, like basic concepts, like a motherfucker over and over again. If you saw the introduction, you'll hear me say like a bunch of things at the same time. And it's just because this is the thing that you always have to remember, the real ideation of things. The ideation of things is there was nothing and oblivion, right? So there's nothing, and then the thing goes something. A part of it wakes up. And this thing begins to sort of think and eventually multiply. But this nothing and this something are not a physical thing. We're talking about before there's anything, there's just nothing, and then a thought, consciousness, a mind, thinking things. And there's no time or anything. There's literally just sort of like a stacking, almost like a mathematical, and actually it may in fact be exactly a mathematical turning on a computer thing. The computer starts to explore the idea of space. It starts to count. It starts to make simple shapes, more complex shapes. It's feeling itself out. But this feeling itself out, which happened in like a blink of an eye, because there's no time. It's just sort of this stacking. Tried that. Just sort of like, there it is. It learns every single thing that it can possibly know. It imagines every single configuration of everything, right? Imagine your mind separate from your body, and that existed before you had a body, right? It's a separate thing. It thinks everything into existence, or the part of this thing that essentially is God, or the part of God that's alive. I mean, that's alive, that's thinking, that's active. The inert God, is where everything came from, and anything can come from. So everything is thought first. And there's no have to create reality. Your body is solid, water is liquid. Those are different states. These are different concepts. Like this is, everything around you is very conceptual. So many of the things, you see them and you recognize what they are, what their function is, what they do, why they look like that. There's a lot of intelligence in your gaze. And we don't put a lot into that, but in various, spiritual states that you can get into, you will learn that, like, if you don't know what you're looking at, you don't exactly see it, or you see it in a very different way. And understanding things leads to, a sharper sort of realization of their solidity. And we have a very solid idea about the universe, but the universe was not created in solidity. It was created in complete and utter liquidity as a thought. So thinking brought about the idea for anything that might be physical. So we're living in a physical that basically proves there's a mental that made this physical for us, because the mental had to think of parameters for a physical to create a physical. If you think about it, it makes perfect sense. As I told you in my introduction, I was a atheist for 28 years, but I learned that all was one when I awoke in my early 30s, and the other way in which it's one, and I know this very well on a lot of different levels. there's so many levels that, you can prove it on. Something as simple as, how is it that I could feel that kid looking at me, and I looked up and he was looking at me? How did I know that? Can we go explain that? I mean, I can explain it, but terrestrial science does not have any good explanation for such things. And things like that happen all the time. And what it is we are all connected by the field. There's a book that I think I recommended on the first episode of the show, The Field. It will teach you how we come in, the moment our sperm hits the egg, a field, an energy field is created. And in the field can be seen the adult form of the being. You are there in your auric field. Your idea for you are in your auric field. And the field will show you how basically, now the easiest way to explain it to most people is like Avatar. Avatar, they keep connecting with the horses and they're connecting with the trees. We don't actually have to connect our little tentacles to the trees. Like, we're connected to them all the time. I mean, just getting near each other puts each other into a reality sort of cohesion, depending on what kind of effect we're having on each other, or various different kinds of reality cohesion, I guess you would say. As it turns out, it seems that very little of our memory is held in our bodies. And I say bodies because I do think that some of the more of the memory that's held is actually held in our bodies than is held in our minds. Our minds do all sorts of things, but largely it's like a survival system and a receiving system. It's like, a receiver, an antenna. Ultimately, like, we are all capable of functioning at our highest degree, which is like chilling out, relaxing, not being in fear, living in gratitude that God's got our back and everything's cool, and tuning into what we need to do at every moment, knowing that it's always right for us and that it's all going to be okay if we just keep going through it. Things can be really good. And it's the truth. And often there's some really awful things that people have to go through in order to get to that truth, which is why it tends to be so scary. But it is often on us how long we go through that period. I mean, I have dragged myself through that. I'm at the, I would say I'm at the very end of this period myself. And I have dragged myself through it. And I see very clearly all the ways in which I have kept myself here, and it's largely by caring about what other people have to say, because we are all one. And the third thing that I will mention here with that is because of this connection in the field that we have together, empathy can be a problem for really caring people like myself. It's funny, it hurts me to say, some people close to me would tell you that I was self-centered or something. And but it's just because I'm always trying to do things that are bigger things. I always have my people in my heart, but often I'll be focused on something a little bigger, and maybe I'll forget something smaller. And it will create this effect sometimes of your loved ones of feeling you don't care. And it's so weird when that's not true and you're an honorable person. You kind of get into this weird loop, beating yourself up about something that wasn't true in the first place. And so, because you just don't know you don't know how to resolve it. It wasn't true. So you're like, is it true? Is it somehow true? Is that true? Am I? And you end up hating yourself for nothing. Phantoms. So many of us are sabotaging ourselves all the time because of the empathy that we feel towards the people around us and the messages that we're getting from them, what they want us to do, who they want us to be. We don't necessarily want to be the same people they want us to be. We want to be us. But we can feel the pressure. And, this is because we are all one. And there's good things and there's bad things with this we are all one that, you have to understand. And, a lot of them are sort of like, they set you free because, to all of them, like, it's a dual coin. And the big one is this. On the other side of things, when we die, we're not going anywhere. You're a consciousness, and you will still be a consciousness on the other side of things. The other side of things is infinite love, a wonderful place. You're good. Even for bad people get it by experiencing what I'm about to tell you. They experience every single thing that they inflicted on every other person directly. They experience it directly. Any fear or pain or sorrow or tears, heartbreak, squishing a bug, you're going to experience every single experience that you dole out to other people. I like to say, I don't like to be boring in conversation because I don't want to be experiencing how bored somebody was in conversation with me when I get to the other side of things. And to find out, not only was I a jerk and I broke some people's hearts, I fucking was boring. It's fucking boring too. Oh, man. I'm the worst. I'm hard on myself, though. And, somebody looking at videos like this and stuff, listening to podcasts like this, you're probably hard on yourself, too. And, that tends to come from lots of empathy. For myself, I've always been like really sort of sweet-natured and outgoing and talkative, but deeply insecure. My dad was a rock star, and I, from a very young age, he wasn't really around, so I had a little bit of like abandonment issue stuff, and he was the one that everybody made a big fuss about, So I felt at a great disadvantage. I was a small child, and he was like, everybody was making a fuss about him. Usually speaking, and psychology will teach you this, like, children get like a big fuss made about them. My dad will tell you that like the reason why he was a rock star was because he was the firstborn and there was a big fuss made about him, and then other babies started being born and no fuss was made about him again. This creates personalities. Now, this empathy that I've had towards, like, my mom and dad, let's say, it's made it difficult for me to create my own universe for myself with my own rules, which is possible. There are people who don't get sick. I never get sick, and they never do. They basically never do. And there are people who are like, I get sick all the time, and they do. They get sick all the time. There are worlds that you can create for yourself. It's deeper than that, of what you can bring into your life and what you can do. The unfortunate sort of reality that you're living in is that the power is all in your hands. We're going to talk a lot in episode number 2 about mentalism, which is the first principle of Hermeticism. And, mentalism states all is mind. We can create great things here on planet Earth. And each of our realities can be and are uniquely different from each other. Just because somebody else believes that like the world's coming to an end, you don't have to believe it too. And literally, if they believe it hard enough, they'll end up in a reality where I believed it with them. And, and I'll end up in the reality where it didn't happen. And that is happening all the time. The world that we live in is far more complex than we have any right to even begin to understand. I don't understand, not completely. I understand enough to be able to help anybody rectify the way they're thinking about the world around them. and plenty, plenty beyond that. But there's a lot that is just right now not information that I've been able to get. And each day that I come to you, I'll have meditated more and have come back with more information and be fortunately wiser than I am today. But I know I could go on for years right now with the things that I have set myself to learning throughout my life. And I know that I can communicate it to you all in a language that you can understand. And I hope that this is a language you can understand. And if you feel like you have any questions at all, write to me, Jesse Blaze at jessesnider.com. I would love, I do like letters occasionally on other shows and stuff, but this is the show where it would mean the most to me to get questions and comments. Like, give me a personal anecdote, whatever it might be. I am terrible at taking my own advice, but I'm getting better at it. But I give great advice, and I really understand the mechanism of all these things, and you can too. I would sort of like my natural desire is to kind of rush through everything and just tell you all the things. But I really think you have to commit to me and commit to talking with me, because my friend had said I just like spouted out a paragraph about what I was going to talk about on this show, and he was like, you could talk for an hour about the first sentence of that paragraph you said. And I really think that there's some truth to that. There are so many different ways of looking at this idea of us all being one, all these examples that I've already given, and all the different degrees of it. If it's not one that locks you in and makes you go, oh, I see that, then the other one will make you see it, or the next one will make you see it, or the next one. And sometimes it really takes a lot. I've had different things. I kind of like view everything as like a sphere. There's like sort of like 360 understanding, and you can like understand it from one degree, and then you're like, oh, but it's also this, it's also this, it's also this. It's like when you get all the way around and you see it from all the angles. There's a bad angle, there's a good angle, there's a neutral angle, there's a few kind of bad angles, kind of good angles, and that's it. It's a journey around. People who are bipolar or whatever, they're just swinging from that journey around quickly, going from the one thing to the other thing. And that is ultimately a balancing process, swinging from that one thing to the other thing. You're hitting the wall on extremism. I'm a Republican. No, I'm a Democrat. No, fuck the Democrats. I'm a Republican. No, fuck the Republicans. I'm a Democrat. No, fuck the Democrats. I'm an independent. Fuck the independents. I don't fucking know what I fucking am. I'm going to go live in a tent. That's the bouncing off the walls. The answer to all things is balance. So what do they want you not to know? They don't want you to know that you're being affected energetically, emotionally, empathetically all the time by the people around you in ways you can't even begin to understand. Because they understand, and they're affecting us in ways like that. Because if they started to tell us that, like, oh, well, yeah, we're kind of psychic, and like, well, what about all these energy fields, and what about all these microwaves, and what about all these, is this stuff good for us? Maybe we should start to think about the importance of our energetic field. Oh, yeah. And our energetic field, I'm here to tell you, I'm sorry, it's getting a bit fucked up. And I don't want to talk about this really in too much detail of like, any sort of badness thing or whatever. But let's just say they're going out of their way to find frequencies that are inharmonious with our bodies. And it is absolutely causing effects and sicknesses and whatever else in our bodies. Granted, these sicknesses that are being allowed to come out are things that we can't, get, are like emotional problems that we're having that are causing density in our energy field, locking in of memories, bad thoughts, whatever it is about the situations, and we're losing our cohesion and getting sick or whatever in one way or another. But there's no need for us to be going through these processes like this. We're not being taught about our energetic body, which is tying us all together and making us feel all sorts of emotions beyond what we feel. Even when our mom's freaking nice, we can feel what she thinks. And like, it's like that thing of the teenager when she's like, damn it, mom. And mom's like, I didn't say anything. Dave, did I say anything? Did I say anything? Right? It's a funny thing. Well, what happened there was the mom couldn't help feel whatever she felt. She was even cool enough to clip her mouth and not say anything. But the young, budding, newly slightly or more very psychic from, period and hormones daughter feels exactly what she thought. She thought, I wouldn't do that. I'd think I'd be a slut, or something. She literally felt like the energy of the, whatever it was that the mom was feeling. It cut right to her, whether or not she could hear those exact words. Say a little bit of the thought was like, that's a little slutty, the daughter feels that. And I'm not sitting here going, fuck you, daughter. I'm not at all. I'm going, this is important to know. This is important for parents to know. This is important for people to know that they really are projecting to each other all the time in subtle ways. There's so many bullies out there who don't know that they were bullies because they were single-minded in their own mind and they were executing some freaking energy that they got from at home or another person or whatever it is, and then they put that onto you, and they thought we were kind of friends. I thought we had a great relationship. I'd pick you up and I'd throw you around and we'd laugh. And, I remember my dad, his bully, was like, what? I didn't realize. But it's just you tormented me for years. He was like, oh, I thought we were friends. My dad was traumatized by that meeting. The guy's like, you didn't fucking remember me. Few bullies do. Few bullies remember you. But this is the thing. Do we chop off the penis of the pedophile if the non-pedophile who chopped off the penis has to experience getting his penis chopped off after he dies? I'm just saying. It's like a mirror universe thing. Whatever we do to others, we experience ourselves. And you might say oh, well, whatever, I'll get in a fight. I'll explain, okay, ooh, that's what it felt like when I beat him up. Ooh, I hit him pretty good. Okay, but I don't know what it feels like to get squished as a bug. What happens when you squish the bug, but you didn't quite kill him and they're still alive and they're limping? Oh man, I did that a couple times. Yeah. But that is the reality that do unto others as you would have them do unto you, and there's a reason why. And it's really just this perfect system of it's like a perfect prison system if you know what the fucking rules are. If you're hurting other people, you're going to experience it on the other side of things. You need to go into the world doing your best not to cause any harm. Now, I will say one thing about this. That does not mean that you do not go out into the world every day, every time, and be exactly your authentic self, exactly who you are. You may hurt some people's pride or make some people jealous or whatever it might be, rub somebody the wrong way, have somebody who doesn't like you. It doesn't matter. You're here to piss those people off. But as long as you're doing it innocently, by leading with your heart and trying to be better each day and being open to the other people's feedback. A lot of times if you're really smart and, you really are following signs, personal signs in your own life, you're savvy, you're intuitive, it's hard to take anybody else's advice because you're just dude, you're not experiencing what I'm experiencing. But sort of at all times, there is always a certain amount of merit to the universe. Even I had a message come to me, and I think very pointedly it was it was meant to trip me up. But ultimately, I processed it, and I sort of was grateful that happened, because it made me think about the thing more richly And I was like solidified how I felt about it, where really it was something that I had only thought about a little bit, and I was already on the right path with it, making the right choices. And then this message basically was like, you're careful, if you do the wrong thing, it's going to blow up in your face. And I was like, I don't think that's actually true. But like, what's there to learn here? And, and ultimately, I came away with like a balanced, deeper version of like my understanding of things. And the balance, that's always the thing. I'm not a fucking fence sitter. Centrist, you fence sitter, you won't take a side. Yeah, I won't take a side because what you guys are arguing about is stupid. I want to talk about the fucking air and the water, and like you guys are freaking arguing about stupid shit that we can't agree on. A bunch of shit we can agree on. Let's start saving the world. Get to that shit later. Like let's talk about this other shit later. Let's fucking do some things to make this country, this world a better place. Like, we can't make the world a better place when the country sucks. It's just like, we got to put our mask on first, and we're not doing it. It's just like, if we would just freaking straighten up and do that alone, so much progress could be made. And then we'd be strong enough and mighty enough, and the right things would be in place or whatever to go around and do things. But we're not a real country. We are a complete corporate interest. Freaking DC, London, and the Vatican are 3 private little cities that control all the freaking power and all the freaking universe, essentially, as far as this stupid 3D world is concerned. Or at least that's how it's been. And I mean, things I believe, are really improving now, and I see lots of different signs of that. So it's great to see that it's coming out of this. But the system's still set up by these power structures are very much there. I mean, down to the language. Things like mine, yours, his, hers. Those words shouldn't even exist. The Native American tribes needed to be taught those words because those are words of ownership. And in the Native American tribes, in their language, it was all ours. We. That's our land. Ours. For us. Not yours, mine. There was no mine. Our language teaches us mine and yours. Our language also teaches us past and present and future. When did that happen? Oh, it happened yesterday. It happened a long time ago. It happened recently. It happened a few weeks ago. There's so many ways to describe past tense. It's coming up. It's going to be in 2 weeks and 3 months. Forward. We can talk about all that stuff. I mean, granted, you can do that in any language or whatever. You can like point to stuff in the future. But really, it's more like, let me try to think, more like jump, jumped, has jumped, is jumping. And then, so like there's like 3 degrees right there for like past and present, whatever. And you always have that, but there's even like more ways to make it, even further distant or whatever. There'd be examples if I sat here fucking trying to make a report about it, but I'm literally just pulling it out as an example to explain. And then there's good, great, the best, better, incredible, astonishing, supreme, godly, infinite. What those are ultimately is all degrees. Different degrees of feeling. It's putting us into sort of a measuring cup. How do you feel right now? Theoretically speaking, right, what could that measuring cup be? It's, I feel full, I feel empty, I feel full, I feel empty, which is like a little bit easier. It's just a one back and forth and back and forth. But instead we've got it's like a lot of different steps and a lot of different ways, complex ways that we can feel from all these things. Everything is one thing, and the one thing is love. And love is the cohesion that like brings it all together kind of thing. Like every molecule is love, and you are ultimately love. We're very confused because we get loved in very strange ways, and it sort of breaks us in strange ways, and it's hard to come back from all of that and learn to understand ourselves. But the first thing about learning to understand ourselves, I really believe, is learning how to understand the reality that you're living in. And the reality that you're living in is more deeply connected than you are usually shown. In the Avatar movie, as they're, talking with and connected to the trees, and when the trees die, it affects them, and blah, blah, blah. Everything affects everybody. The butterfly effect and all that stuff is very real. Little things have major effects. And because the other side of things is very real, they can have a lot of effect on things as well, in terms of changing things if they need to, and adjusting things in their own to keep reality going in the direction that they want it to go in. And, and part of that is the reality is going in the direction of growth. They want us all to grow. If you feel like you're in a pot boiling, it's because you are. It's like, it's going to get hotter and hotter until you go, this fucking thing is boiling, and if I don't jump out of this pot, I'm going to die. And then when you jump out of the pot, you'll reach a new level of consciousness where you accept something that you haven't been able to accept before, where you cross some boundary that you thought was impossible for you to cross. And I mean, really, that's the journey of every soul on planet Earth. When you hear about the fallen angels, they were falling out of a dimension that was higher, a higher dimension. So it wasn't exactly like a fall. They literally could be like right next to you kind of thing, but they're carrying and living in dualistically and bringing with them everywhere they go a much higher vibration. And, it might have been hard for us to stand next to them, the vibration that they were holding. And then one day they did things, they made choices, and they let darkness come into them that lowered that brightness and brought them down into a deeper part of the dimensional state of being that they had been in. And now, like them, who now have to try to traverse their way back up into the good graces of God, if you want to look at it that way, but really it's the good graces of yourself. And maybe I didn't talk about that long enough. Like on the other side of things, there's no judgment. There is just you seeing from all perspectives how your time in the world was felt. If you spent a lot of time murdering people, you've got some pain that you're going to experience, I'm sure. If you spend a lot of time lying to people and creating bad situations for them, you're going to see whatever bad situation you caused for them by doing what you did. You're not more than you're going to see it, you're going to feel it. If they cried, you're crying. If they had a heart attack, you're having a heart attack with them. If this sorrow is tied into all these other sorrows of a dad dying and other things, you're going to literally experience all of their sorrow with them as the memory of the person who fucking fucked them first and freaking screwed up their whole life, and they're blaming you and all this shit. And trust that that other person is going to have an accounting as well. But it's not going to be them going, I need justice. Because on the other side of things, all is love. And they're going to see every other incarnation you've had, all these other things. We're ultimately one being. So we're always very ready to sort of like forgive each other. But also, we don't want to, no, don't forgive me for all this. Look what I did to you. I just felt it. I just experienced it. I tortured you. I killed you. I did that. I have to make this up. What can I do? Right now, you're experiencing a life based on the what can I do to make this up to you of yesterday, with souls that you may not remember them from yesterday, and it's the unfortunate thing that somebody hurt you, somebody raped you, unfortunately, this is like nobody wants to fucking hear this, but guys, you just got to get over it. You may have raped, you probably did. Unfortunately, it's so unfortunate. But we go back in time, and you've been a boy, and you've been a girl, and you've been a boy, and you've been a girl, and you've been a boy, and you've been a girl, and you've been a boy, and you've been a girl. One of those people may have been dysfunctional. You know, it happens. I'm so sorry for any suffering. There's all sorts of suffering, and just like comparing them is, really not worthy of our time. But at the same time, I've always felt like, sexual suffering in particular is just, this is the worst. But unfortunately, not only did you, innocent person who never hurt a fly, who got raped, possibly have set that up for one reason or another to pay back karma yourself. You chose that for some reason, because we choose our destiny. Very rarely is huge, sort of wrenches thrown into the works, especially not now. The people who commit these crimes, they're damaged. Hurt people hurt people. Like, I've literally never met, well, I'm good at avoiding the bad ones, but personally, I've never met anybody who was just terrible from the jump. Everybody that I know has been hurt in all sorts of ways. And that is depending on which way you go, it's interesting when you see like the twins. These were two twins. They were both raised the same way. One of them went crazy and became a killer. The other one's Albert Einstein's best friend, like something like that. And it really does seem to kind of go one way or the other. It's what you make of it, though, right? That's why, because it's all mind. We'll talk about that next week more. And when you're all one, what's happening there with these two twins? They're polarizing against each other. One of them's just, using what's going on with his brother to like gain that much more ground, and the other one's going, I'm a fuck up more than ever, and like falling apart. And that happens in families and communities. There's people who secretly don't want their friends and their brothers and their family to succeed, because what would that say about them? That's a rough one. While they should be focused on trying to figure out how to do something to make themselves feel better, they're inadvertently creating a reality, like where you can't be there kind of thing. And, and it's funny because I think the way it works basically is like you'll get a better version of them when you get yourself into a better reality for yourself, because like you kind of drag the one with you who's like was willing to accept your energy and didn't stand in the way of it. It's all so complex, like real like laws of attraction stuff. Very subtle, just all about that balance. And like the balance in the law of one especially is recognizing that you're one with everybody, so you don't want to hurt them or anything. But at the same time, you do have to be your 100% authentic self, because to not be would be to hurt yourself. So just, it is simple. It's so easier said than done, but it's like shine brightly, my friends, just be a star, be the star that you are. And, and recognize your connection to all things, recognize the ripples that you make when you go through the world. Why don't they want you to know this? Because like they can't fucking bribe you to do shitty things that will affect other people shittily. They can't hire you and have you look the other way when they're freaking making terrible business decisions at their corporations. If hey, we're all one and this would really hurt them and it's going to hurt me, and like I'm going to get karma for this and so many things. And again, the karma isn't the karma that you think it is. The karma is you looking and looking at everything, experience everything and going, oh shit, this is what I think about what I owe from like that experience. It's you. It's all you. It's nobody else. So we are one. And I mean, like, there's so many things that I'm talking about today that I know I'm going to end up talking about again, but I'll talk about in other ways and iron them home. We are one. The bastard on the other side of the field of battle is you. It's like, this is some other asshole who has been tricked by his government into the importance of this or that war, which is ultimately just based on the whims of the ruling powers that be, trying to get power, keep power, defend themselves against some looming threat that they think is in existence. It's just fuck these people. We need to pull ourselves out of their game, recognize our oneness in the positive, that we have to do something positively to help bring the end of suffering on planet Earth, because it's like it is our suffering. So much of it is our suffering. When we see that video of the people suffering on TV and there they are, they're suffering, we're going to have to go and experience what it felt like for them suffering in that moment, seeing it. We didn't experience it then. We're going to experience it now because we feel everything. I remember what they were like. Look at this picture. I remember what they were like in that picture. I look at them. I was like, it's like you. If you watch pornography, and I'm not against pornography, but if you watch pornography and you get the feeling that this was an unsafe shoot, the boys are abusive and the girls are not enjoying themselves. This energy, you're going to have to experience whatever that experience. You watch that whole video or whatever, well, you're going to experience the whole time they were, you're going to know more deeply. Now, what I was saying about how memory isn't in your brain, it's more like in your body, because there's certain things that you'll remember for the wrong reasons, all kind of fear-based. And because everything is mind, as we'll get into in the next episode, fear is just an illusion. There's nothing to be afraid of. We are creating all of our adversity with our minds. And I know it seems like so silly because, you've been doing this for forever. So, like, how would you know any better? I mean, this is what everybody's been taught to do for forever. But it is so simple to love yourself and love your neighbor and know that you have a very powerful mind that can literally think wonder. Everything is wonderful. If you started tomorrow saying everything is wonderful, everything is wonderful, everything is wonderful, and you just repeated everything is wonderful, other than when you had to like stop and do some stuff, but repeated that to yourself over and over again and over again for like a few weeks, like it would change your life. If you were able to distract yourself that completely and just keep your mind off the negative, it would literally change your life. All of a sudden you'd be like, man, things have gotten wonderful. All of a sudden things are wonderful. And, people think, oh, I meditated on that thing. Yeah. How well were you able to meditate on it? How well were you able to visualize it? How often do you think about it? How many times do you think the opposite? How many times do you worry? How big is the momentum of your worry for the opposite? People forget about momentum because momentum's kind of like faceless. But like we build up momentum for things, feelings about experiences, whatever else it may be. And building up momentum is very real. And when things get to a certain amount of momentum, it's like you can't stop the juggernaut once he gets going. Momentum will keep things going even when you start thinking about the good things. And sometimes it takes a while for that momentum to slow down. And you have to reverse that momentum with an equal measure plus a whole bunch more the other way. So things don't really become like fabulous until you really are just like committed to the fabulous thing. At the same time, if you commit to the fabulous thing, you might find yourself crying and things coming up that you need to think about to resolve so you can bring yourself to fabulous. And that is the journey. You really want to get to fabulous. There's a reason why you're not in fabulous right now. Think fabulous thoughts, put yourself in a fabulous state of mind. There's no reason why anything has to be the way it is right now. It could be easier. You can be sad and rich. Granted, you'll still be sad. But if you pay attention on the way to trying to get your mind to being rich and what's possible there, you'll probably open up yourself to the spiritual exploration that you really need to have in order to let go of everything and transform yourself and really feel that on a regular basis. But it is very much within your wheelhouse to bring any sort of situation you want to into your life. Because we're never taught this, we just sort of like mindlessly get what we think we might get and then, lock ourselves into other bits of sort of like ruts until we, sort of get broken down and die or kill ourselves or come out of it, as is the case with, the greatest people. I mean, so many people, their second half of their life or whatever it might be is the greatest time in their life where they do the most things. So don't feel betrayed and shut down. And, if you're listening to this, you may be one of these people who have bigger energy and is more empathetic, and it's hard for you, this oneness, being in this oneness, having to feel bitterness and things like jealousy, things that don't really come naturally to you, that aren't emotions that you like to feel, and feeling them from other people. I hate when other people are uncomfortable because I feel their discomfort, and I don't like it. I just want them to feel comfortable. Just make them comfortable again. That just seems like a must for me. But at the same time, we all have to be comfortable for ourselves and learn to sort of like sense other people's feelings, but not let their feelings and emotions change us. And we got to learn to live together with one another, because I can't just go and chop your head off. I'm going to have to feel getting my head chopped off on the other side. I'm going to feel all bad about it because I'm going to be like, oh man, you're just me and I love you on the other side. Because on the other side of things, we're all just one. And it's just one love. One love, let's get together and feel all right. He knew what he was talking about. Yeah. Trying to think if there's anything else that I want to like leave you guys with about the oneness. Let me see. I'm just going to take one last breath and see if there's anything. There was something about how we treat dogs, and that maybe we should treat humans like we treat dogs. Because we treat dogs pretty good. We treat them like we're here at their service. Pick up their poop, get them some food if they need it, some water, check on them. If they come to us and they're like needy, they need a hug, we're like, oh, you need a hug? Come here, buddy. Oh, you give them a hug. They go away. Meanwhile, like spouses and stuff, we push them away and like all this other stuff, But we really treat dogs a little bit more like we treat like our children. And over time, as children get older, we stop treating them that way. We take away our children's innocence and we begin to treat them like they're guilty. I've been very careful not to treat my children like I think they're guilty, because kids feel that very hardly. Like that hits home. Like, you think I'm guilty. Like a kid will shut down and be like, I'm guilty. Yep. Every time, like kids are devastated when like parents take on that sort of like thing of like, you're getting older now. Now the deceitful gene's coming out in you, I bet. And it really like hurts relationships big time. Kids are really innocent. And, we have to give everybody, especially our children, the benefit of the doubt. And we have to keep that love that we have for our dogs, where we keep believing that they're innocent. If somebody's never given you a reason to believe otherwise, you really have to consciously not just think, because I'm surrounded by bastards, that other people are, because then you've created a situation where there is another bastard. Now there's somebody that you betrayed because you couldn't believe that there was somebody who was good. And that's not good. Now you just lost a good friend. Fuck that shit. Got to get all that shit together. Got to be good to our kids in that way and appreciate our kids, love our friends, and love our children as we love our dogs with innocence. You don't see malicious intent in a dog when it approaches you or it barks or whatever. Like you there's nothing malicious about the dog barking or running around, or even, it's like the dog bit somebody, and like most people are like, he's really a good dog. I don't know what came over, because like we see that there's really generally not malicious intent, and there isn't really malicious intent in the world in general. we mostly put out malicious intent. We think that people are malicious intenting, mostly because we're insecure and like, we're like feeling like people are judging us, and it's like, so we create monsters and we make things worse for ourselves than we need to, because we're all connected and we do feel something, but we can't read into what we feel, and we can't let that overtake who we are. Anyway, I think that's all I'm going to say today about, the law of one. These first 12 official episodes, or rather 13, I'm going to do a combination of the 7 Hermetic principles and the 12 universal laws that basically amount to 13, because mentalism, all is mind, isn't one of the universal laws. So it gets to be a 13. But really the 13 for me is the law of attraction. And the law of attraction is almost kind of like the mentalism kind of bit, but it's like so many other things to think about, like thinking about mentalism and thinking about it as the principle of mentalism. Anyway, until next we meet, keep thinking, my friends. Keep reading, keep investigating, and keep an open mind. I love you guys so much. I hope you will join me again next Friday for my second official episode of Everything They Don't Want You to Know, Mentalism. Love you. Bye-bye.